Welcome to Texas View's 2022 exhibit of Texas as Art. This virtual exhibit includes the artwork and information about the exhibit and its educational outreach focus, which is supported by America View and the U.S. Geological Survey. Two themes connect the scenes chosen for the 2022 exhibit. The first is Texas natural ecoregions and landforms. Scenes also show the human footprint on our natural landscapes. The second theme connects to state parks, historic areas, natural areas, and wildlife management areas that are scientifically managed, conserved, and restored by the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. 3 artists have contributed to this exhibit. I am Rebecca L. Dodge, the lead investigator for the Texas View Project at Midwestern State University. Teresa Howard is my co-leader from University of Texas at Austin's Center for Space Research. Liz Bartlett Kulp is a Midland-based landscape artist whose landscapes of the Big Bend area and the Davis Mountain provide an on-the-ground perspective to the imagery in our exhibit. The satellite imagery from which the artist derived observes the Earth in visible and non-visible wavelengths. By introducing the non-visible infrared spectrum, we can turn a true color image, like that shown in the center here, into multiple false color images of the same area with different color palettes. Now, get ready to begin a tour of almost half of the state of Texas. Texas encompasses 10 ecoregions within its boundaries. QR codes in this presentation will typically take you to a Texas Parks and Wildlife resource, such as a state park website, with photographs, videos, maps, and satellite imagery, and other information about the park. In this case, the QR code leads to the Ecoregions of Texas website. 4 ecoregions are included within the artwork in this exhibit: the Edwards Plateau, the Rolling Plains, the High Plains, and we will begin our tour of the exhibit with the Trans-Pecos Eco Region. The Trans-Pecos Eco Region is the most diverse in terms of landforms and geology. It is also the driest ecoregion in the state. Most of the rainfall comes during a short monsoon season in late summer and early fall. Plants and animals are all adapted to arid lifestyles. The QR code here leads to a video about this ecoregion. Big Bend Ranch State Park lies north of the Rio Grande, which crosses the image in the diagonal direction shown here. The circular Solitario Dome within Big Bend Ranch State Park is a geologic structure called a laccolith. It features a central peak and basin surrounded by outwardly dipping sedimentary rock layers. The dome has a central peak, and that's surrounded by an erosional valley, and as we can see in Liz Kulp's artwork, all the sedimentary units are dipping away from the central part of the dome. Trans-Pecos plants such as yucca and prickly pear cactus are adapted to dry conditions that exist during most of each year. Ocotillo and a diversity of cacti are common, along with native grasses adapted to survive months-long dry periods. Big Bend National Park is north of the Big Bend in the Rio Grande. It hosts the largest protected area of Trans-Pecos, also known as Chihuahuan Desert ecoregion, in the United States. Iconic mountain views from the Big Bend National Park provide a perspective on the dramatic mountainous landscape of this region. Fort Pina, Colorado Park, south of the town of Marathon on Highway 90, hosts the ruins of an old cavalry post garrisoned by buffalo soldiers of the 10th Cavalry after the Civil War. The Glass Mountains to the north of Marathon, across the top of the scene, are host to an exposure of the largest fossil reef system on the planet, the Permian Reef. Cathedral Mountain is an erosional remnant of the reef within the Glass Mountains, north of the town of Marathon. Davis Mountain State Park is home to javelinas, mountain lions, and over 250 species of birds. Northwest of the park, McDonald Observatory on Mount Locke is exploring our galaxy for planets around other stars. Ghostly circles mark former center pivot irrigation fields where native plants were removed. The Blue Mountains section shown on the horizon here, it's part of the Davis Mountains and it lies west of the Davis Mountain State Park. The monsoon season brings vital moisture to the skies and soils, and the landscapes green up as shown on the right. Towering clouds accompany the monsoon season, providing dramatic skyscapes. When the rains cease, the landscape returns to its dusty habit. When we head to the north, we reach Monaghan Sandhills State Park, just north of I-20. It's home to sand dunes over 50 feet high. Odessa hosts the University of Texas at Permian Basin, and Midland is home to Midland College, the Sibley Nature Center, and the Petroleum Museum. The Salt Basin runs through the center of this scene. During the last ice age, the entire basin hosted a lake over 80 feet deep. Now, summer rains form seasonal playa lakes. Sierra Diablo Wildlife Management Area was established in 1945 as a sanctuary for the last remaining desert bighorn sheep in Texas. They did go extinct in the state, but have since been reintroduced. The Fort Lancaster Historic Site near the Pecos River hosts the ruins of a fort that protected the frontier from 1855 to the late 1870s, garrisoned by buffalo soldiers of the 9th Cavalry after the Civil War. The Yates Oil Field is found in this curve of the Pecos River. It began production in 1926 and has produced over 2 billion barrels of oil. A large solar farm can be seen south of the Pecos, and this farm has added renewable energy to the landscape. Agriculture is concentrated in the Rio Grande Valley in this scene, on Texas' western border. Franklin Mountain State Park is on the west side of the Franklin Mountains. It's the largest urban wilderness park in the continental United States. The city of El Paso wraps around the Franklin Mountains. To the west, we see multiple craters and peaks and volcanic lava flows in the Portillo volcanic field. In the 1960s, Apollo astronauts trained here prior to the moon landing to learn how to safely collect volcanic rock samples. Guadalupe Mountains National Park protects a massive exposure of the most extensive fossilized reef in the world, the Permian Reef. Carlsbad Caverns formed within the Permian Reef limestone. Multiple wildfire scars mark the landscape in golden hues from the 2011 drought season. Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management Area was established to conserve the desert bighorn sheep and its habitat. In the upper right corner, Narrow folded mountains trend into the scene towards the southwest. These mountains were formed around 300 million years ago at the same time as the Appalachian Mountains and are now exposed by erosion. The town of Alpine hosts Sul Ross State University and the Museum of the Big Bend, where this exhibit is on display during the first quarter of 2022. Again, we see the town of Marathon, which lies to the east along Highway 90. Ghostly checkerboard patterns mark fence lines where different grazing practices affect land cover. If we stepped towards the west, we soon reach the Rio Grande again and the Chanati Mountains State Natural Area, which is under development as a state park, preserving Trans-Pecos Eco Regions and plants. Following the border towards the north, the Rio Grande is crossed by multiple narrow mountain ranges. The Indio Mountain Research Station is in the Eagle Mountains and is managed by the University of Texas at El Paso, with an emphasis on research and instruction for biological and geological sciences. If we head from Alpine towards the southeast, the Rio Grande has made its big bend towards the northwest and flows across the entire scene. There are distinct geologic patterns that provide texture and contrast on both sides of the border. The Black Gap Wildlife Management Area comes down to the river. This is where the Texas Department of Parks and Wildlife conducts demonstration and research projects, including invasive species eradication and bighorn sheep reintroduction. East of the Big Bend area, the reservoir at Amistad National Recreation Area on the Rio Grande provides recreational opportunities. Del Rio, north of the river, is home to the Rio Grande College of Sul Ross State University. Devil's River, which flows into the Rio Grande, is where the Trans-Pecos and the Edwards Plateau ecoregions meet. We'll continue north now into the Edwards Plateau ecoregion. The shallow soils in this area supported an original grassland savanna that has been converted for livestock grazing. Overgrazing has enabled the spread of juniper brush cover, degrading the browsing for both domestic and wild grazing populations. Enchanted Rock is a granite dome that began as a molten magma chamber that cooled underground. It is now exposed by weathering and erosion. Weathering of the granite surface has produced pits that fill with seasonal vernal pools, which host unique species, including freshwater shrimp. Bastrop State Park, located east of the city of Austin, includes the westernmost stand of loblolly pines in the United States. The 2011 Bastrop fire damaged 96% of the park and left this dramatic burn scar through the ecologically unique area. Somerville State Park and Trailway hosts abundant wildlife, including river otters, bobcats, yes, alligators. Migrating birds find conserved wetland habitat. To the east, College Station is home to Texas A&M University's main campus. The Pedernales River flows over gently tilted limestone layers of the Edwards Plateau. Pedernales Falls State Park preserves both sides of a stretch of the river where the river drops over 50 feet in elevation in just over 1/2 mile, creating multiple step-like falls and pools. Longhorn Caverns State Park sheltered prehistoric people and has had several incarnations, including as a bat guano mine and a dance hall. It has been a state park since 1938. The Colorado River runs across the scene, and several reservoirs are built along this river. From the northwest to the southeast, we have Lake Buchanan, Inks Lake, which hosts a state park, Lake LBJ, and Lake Travis, just west of the suburbs of the city of Austin. This image provides a good connection for the human footprint part of this exhibit, which follows. Across the state, human infrastructure, including dams like these, have impacted ecoregions, flooding stream channels and disrupting stream flow, while at the same time providing flood control, water resources, and recreation. Government Canyon State Natural Area protects the recharge zone of the Edwards Aquifer, which supplies the city of San Antonio, in purple, with fresh water. San Antonio, home to the University of Texas at San Antonio, covers much of the recharge area as it straddles the Balcones Escarpment. This is an erosional break in the landscape caused by erosion. White areas along the Balcones Escarpment all mark limestone quarries that have provided building stones for Central Texas since the 1830s. Lockhart State Park lies just off of the Balcones Escarpment on the Clear Fork Plum Creek, west of the Balcones. This park preserves some of the state's most extensive recreational infrastructure constructed by the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 1930s. The reservoir, captured by Canyon Lake Dam, supports a drinking water reservoir, provides flood control, and generates hydroelectric power for the Texas grid. Again, we see multiple limestone quarries marking the Balcones Escarpment. El Paso, which wraps around the Franklin Mountains, has a population of 685,000 and is home to the University of Texas at El Paso. Where the city meets the Rio Grande, across the river we have the city of Juarez, Mexico, with a population of over 1.5 million. The biggest footprint on the landscape here, though, is Fort Bliss, which goes from Texas all the way up into New Mexico. Fort Bliss was established in 1849, and it's the second largest U.S. Army base in the world, covering an area of 1,700 square miles. The dramatic footprint of Del City indicates the irrigated fields that host a variety of crops, including grapes, alfalfa, and corn. The arid Diablo Plateau that covers most of this image shows very little human footprint, but its deeply incised arroyos recharge the Bone Springs Aquifer, which provides irrigation groundwater to Del City. Abilene is home to 6 colleges, Dyess Air Force Base, the Abilene Zoo, and many other sites. Wind farms on the edge of the Callahan Divide, which comes into the scene in the southwestern corner, produce more than 100 megawatts of electricity to the Texas grid. The Alamo 7 solar farm in the upper right is the largest dual-axis solar farm in the United States. In addition, there are several small oil fields within this scene. The prominent human footprint here, though, is of irrigated agriculture. Most of the original native grasslands have been converted to agricultural fields. We're moving on to the plains ecoregions that cover so much of West Texas. The High Plains in the northern panhandle and western panhandle, and the rolling plains to the south and east. Former grasslands on these vast plains ecoregions have been largely converted for agriculture and grazing. Playa lakes are common and provide recharge for the Ogallala Aquifer, source of irrigation groundwater that supports agricultural productivity. We've seen evidence of wildfires elsewhere in the exhibit, and they do provide dramatic evidence of their extent and impact. South of the Canadian River, which crosses the scene, lies the extensive wildfire scar from the March 2006 Borger Fire, which burned more than 450,000 acres of grassland. To the south lies the scar from the March 2006 I-40 fire, which burned more than 350,000 acres of grasslands. Southeast of the city of Amarillo, Palo Duro Canyon cuts into the Plateau. Palo Duro Canyon State Park is the second largest canyon system in the United States. The park includes areas on the high plateau as well as areas in the valley of the Prairie Dog Fork of the Red River. The landscape on the plateau hosts numerous small circular depressions, which become shallow playa lakes like those shown here during rainfall events. Caprock Canyon State Park is found in Palo Duro Canyon, southeast along the Prairie Dog Town Fork of the Red River, which flows out of the canyon and on the east into the Rolling Plains ecoregion. Here we see the high plains on the left merging towards the east into the rolling plains across the erosional Caprock escarpment. The city of Lubbock lies in the top center and hosts Texas Tech University. Cedar Lake is the bottom left, is a slightly saline lake that hosts migrating birds and diverse local wildlife. As we've crossed the Caprock escarpment, we've entered the rolling plains. Increased rainfall supports even more agriculture and grazing. Overgrazing has degraded grasslands into a mesquite shortgrass savanna. Copper Break State Park is an international dark sky park due to its remote location. The Red River, the border between Texas and Oklahoma, traverses the image in the upper quarter. This scene lies south of the city of Wichita Falls, shown here, which is the home to Midwestern State University, the lead institution of Texas View. Multiple burn scars mark the landscape. This is from the drought-related dry season in 2011. The largest of these burn scars shows the burn extends right up to the edge of Lake Arrowhead State Park's reservoir. Within the park, which escaped the fire, restored grasslands host both migratory birds and monarch butterflies. The Callahan Divide dominates the upper third of this scene. It is southwest of the city of Abilene. Abilene State Park was a seasonal campground for Comanche and Apache indigenous tribes. The edge of the Callahan Plateau here is dotted with multiple wind farms. San Angelo State Park lies at the convergence of the Edwards Plateau with the Trans-Pecos High Plains and Rolling Plains. Biodiversity is high with species from all four ecoregions. The park is also home to bison and the official Texas State Longhorn herd. Lake Colorado City State Park's reservoir was Originally served to cool a power plant, it now serves recreational purposes. Restoration efforts are underway within the park to return the land to its original grassland cover through the removal of mesquite trees. Thank you for viewing our virtual exhibit, hosted at Sul Ross State University's Museum of the Big Bend during the first quarter of 2022. Learn more about the ecoregions and state-managed lands you've seen in your tour by accessing the QR code resources in this presentation.